All right, hello and welcome to episode 11 of the Crackdown. Today we'll be talking to Akaadian, recently unfortunately eliminated with Dignitas, but obviously was a big contributing factor to why Dignitas ended up getting their shit together at the end of the season. So we'll be talking about everything. I mean, you know how it is on the Crackdown. We'll go way back, maybe talk a little bit about TSM, the eternal battle between Akaadian and Grig for a starting spot that has been going on for years now. So we'll be talking about that as well. And yeah, it should be a good episode. Obviously, this episode, we're shooting it right now, just about like 20 minutes after the end of G2 versus Mad Lions. Thorn was doing a show. He wasn't able to catch the series. He's going to have to rewatch it. But Akaadian and I saw the series live, so we can discuss a little bit of that. It was a fucking crazy series, one of the most intense series I've watched in a long ass time. So yeah, we'll be doing a little bit of everything. But how are you guys doing today? How was the experience of watching G2 lose in the first round, Akaadian?
I don't know. I couldn't believe my eyes, actually. I really didn't expect Mad to be able to beat them. I think G2 was not playing like G2. Mm-hmm. That's what I think. I don't know. They just looked, I don't know, their level of play was not that good. I think Mad also played well, but it was not what I was expecting at all.
Yeah,
I mean, you think the fact that it was online affected it?
Yeah, probably. I think probably the newer players of Mad probably had an easier time than like if they were on stage in front of like a crowd that's screaming and stuff. There's more pressure. I feel like the veteran status of G2 might have helped. Like maybe they would have choked more or something.
Yeah.
I mean, even that whole part where, like, when you're at the studios, between the games, you go back and you have the meetings. I'm sure that's all a totally different vibe than playing these games just online from home.
Yeah. It feels a lot more like scrims. Like the pressure is so much lower on online games. So there's definitely that factor too.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I was really surprised for with the series was definitely Cap's performance. I kind of like always withheld like some hope that, even if he wasn't having the best split as an AD carry, when things actually mattered, he was going to turn it on and just be like dominant. I would say so far he shit the bed. Yeah. Like there was a couple games that were just clearly lost off Cap's mistakes. I mean, I'm not going to say he's the only one that underperformed. There was definitely like bad games from everyone. Even in some of the wins, like Yanko's, I thought game 4 had a pretty awful series or awful game. It was like 0-5 in the game and they ended up winning. But yeah, like Cap's just made the same AD carry mistakes that are just inexcusable that we've been expecting for a while, and like something that he's had a struggle with this whole split, which is like dying randomly, and a couple of them just straight up made it so they lost the game. And I think that he was pretty much the biggest contributing factor for G2 as to why they lost the series. So after seeing something like that, I just feel like it's going to be the Perks Caps role swap back in summer. That's just my take on it.
What do you think of that, Akaadian? Like, obviously, if they don't remember, there is like a lower bracket, so in theory they can still come back. It's not like the old days where it was just one and done if you were in playoffs. But do you think that after what you've seen in this match, like, assuming they don't just come back and win the whole split, do you think they should reverse the role swap? Because it was kind of implied that they always could do it anyway, and that maybe it wasn't permanent,
Yeah, I think they should see how it plays out first, obviously, like see the rest of the season, because maybe they learn something from this series. But if they do win and they're not as dominant, because I think last year when they went to MSI they were like mega dominant and LEC nobody could play against them, and then they just went to MSI and won, right? So I think if they want to keep that sort of level, if they're not at a very high level with this, then they should swap back. Yeah, probably.
I mean, my perception personally is, regardless of how, like, even if they come back and win this split, I still think that because of like just how it's looked, just in general, they looked way better with Perks on AD carry. So from my perspective, I feel like they should just do the swap back either way. Like, instead of having just what, like, I think Perks so far has still been like pretty good. Obviously, he had a relatively bad game 5, but I feel like he got really far behind off like a team play. It's not like his laning was the issue. They went for like one horrible play topside. They really just fucking chain entered it. It was like 4 deaths in a row, and then suddenly the game was unplayable for him. But instead of having just like one really good player, you just have 2 really insane players when you have Perks on AD carry and Caps on mid lane. So my perception is, regardless, I just want to see them swap back. I just feel like that was the best version of G2 that we've seen.
The thing I think sucks, though, is like, I know in the current state of things, we have no idea how long we're all going to be online for. Like, who knows, maybe fucking Summer Split will be online and it's just the world we're going to have to accept now. But the problem is, in like the historical context, it does fuck specifically with a match like this. Because like, if you remember, Mad Lions actually almost beat G2 in like the opening game of the split, and then they did beat them later in the split. So actually, on paper, they were one of the teams that had a chance to beat G2. In fact, obviously, even the player who has the opposing position to Caps on Mad Lions is like the best player on Mad Lions. kha'zix is considered one of the best ADCs. So in theory, this could have happened offline. Like this could have happened in normal LEC play. It's just that unfortunately, you can't really know that, and especially when the team that gets the upset win is nearly all rookies and like newer players. That's where if you're G2 or any veteran team, you're expecting to get a big edge when it gets to playoffs at that point in time, because they've never been in playoffs. Like the amount of pressure that you can put on them is immense. So it does feel a bit like there's an asterisk next to this playoff run.
Yeah.
No, I agree, and especially coming into like Game 5. Like, I don't know how you feel as a player, but Game 4, the series was a massive throw, right? Like, G2 was down like 4K gold at like 10 minutes into the game. It was just a massive disadvantage for G2, and then G2 comes back and wins that game. And normally, I feel like in like a playoff series, if you have a massive throw like that in the fourth game, it's so hard to come back and win the fifth game. Like it's normally, it's super big. It's bad for morale, and just going into the next game, it's like shit. I mean, if we lost that game, how can we win the fucking next game?
I mean, I feel like Akaadian would probably be uniquely situated to tell you about this. Actually, if you remember last year.
Yeah, perfect.
Game three versus CL was definitely a big throw, and I would say we were for sure like there was some mental issues in Game 4, and then
Game 5 you got it back.
Yeah, we came back in Game 4 or Game 5, but Game 4 was just like a complete disaster. We just fell apart in like 10 minutes. So I'm sure that's a real thing.
Yeah, and that was something that I was expecting from Mad Lions. I was expecting their Game 5 because Game 4 was the huge fucking throw, the huge tilter. So I was expecting Game 5 to be even worse for them. I'm like, oh, how the fuck can they come back from this?
Honestly, G2 was probably going to stomp them. They were set up to stomp them, and then they had that play where Perks TP'd into mid lane, like in the center of the lane on Ziggs, and just insta-died.
Caps, yeah.
And then 4 people died on G2. Like it started with Mickey X dying in the jungle, which first they should just not fight for a little bit, just wait for him to come back. But then he TP's in the middle of the lane, and 3 people die. I feel like before that happened, Mad Lions was like completely falling apart. That's how it felt to me. Like G2 was running the game already, and I thought it was going to be a dub. And then all that whole situation happened, and then suddenly Mad Lions is back in control. So
yeah. I think especially from a jungle perspective, I'm sure that you think about the game the same way I do since we both are junglers. But like, imagine you're playing the Jarvan there, and you do all this stuff to get the Olaf behind early game, and then you just see your team die 4 times top laner, 3 deaths top lane, a triple kill to the enemy Olaf. It must be so demoralizing as a jungler because it's like, fuck, man. Like, I did all this work to put this jungler behind, and then he just gets like the freest, like he has a godsend, just a drop out of the sky of like, oh, now you're just suddenly super strong in the game. You have 5 kills on Olaf. It's like you just got shit on, even though you didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge throw. I mean, I usually look at it like I look at jungle mostly like the actual individual performance. I usually just look at what both junglers did in the early game for their team, like how many objectives they got, if they put pressure on lane, stuff like that. That's usually how I kind of like estimate it or something. But after like 15 minutes, it's mostly just team play.
Along those lines, then, how would you evaluate the 2 junglers in this series?
Oh, Shadow versus Jankos. Well, I didn't watch the first game very heavily. I started watching a lot in the third game. I thought Jankos was doing his thing. I think in the Lee Sin game, he played pretty bad in early game. I think Shadow's actually really good. I was watching his pro view most of this split. I thought he played pretty well, especially his Lee Sin's like really, really insane. I think
is he a coin flipper? That's what people always say, but I haven't watched the pro view, so I don't know how the details. What it's like when you actually can watch all the stuff he's doing. Does his decision making look good?
I don't think. Yeah, I mean, his decision making is good, but I wouldn't say that he's necessarily like. I feel like Jankos and the other new guy, Razork, are there like more? They think more. It's obvious to me that they think a lot more in their gameplay, and I think Shadow is more of like a. He's really good still, but his stronger point is like his mechanics and team fighting and whatnot.
Yeah,
I think.
And I think that was really evident, especially in Game 2, which was a Kindred game that he played, where in general, like kind of like I was talking to another jungler, Tinks, who plays in the LFL during the cast, and criticism that we both had of him is he's the type of jungler where if you throw something different at him, you get like a weird invade early game, or you have like you make the game different than how he's expecting. He suffers a lot from like having to adapt on the fly and like change his pathing. And game 2 was essentially just lost off like him getting an invade that he thought probably would never happen because he's playing Kindred into Jarvan, and you wouldn't expect the Jarvan to like invade level 1. They ended up invading. They brought the support to like a top lane invade at red buff, and suddenly he lost his red. Then he tried to counter jungle the enemy red, which he just didn't have the timing to do. Gets behind from there, and then they started a river fight off him getting invaded, and suddenly the whole game was blown open. So definitely I think that plays into like his mentality, and especially that's why I think in that final game, him ending up getting that triple kill topside is really what led him back into the game. Like before that, he was kind of falling apart.
Yeah, like I said, G2 was running the game before that situation, and then that allowed Mad to start playing. I think they had really no control over what was happening. G2 was deciding every decision basically.
Yeah. It was definitely a crazy game. I mean, that looked like straight solo queue for the last 10 minutes. I mean, those are situations that you're probably never getting into in scrims, where it's like the enemy has like an open nexus and you're just throwing bodies at it over and over again. But I mean, I think it was interesting to watch, like even with G2 losing the series, how close the game was, I think showed some merit to like how hard it is to take down G2.
Yeah, dude, I was in a Discord call with my friend, and I was just saying, like, man, it's so, like, I love the way G2 plays, because they're down, like, 10,000 gold, and they're running Mad Lions across the map with Baron buff and Ocean Dragon, and they're just, like...
And Elder, even.
Yeah, like, random G2 members, like, Yankos is just randomly in their red buff by himself, and they spend all this time trying to chase him out. This whole time, they're just losing Nash buff, by the way, over time. And then they eventually got the play where Ziggs probably should have ended the game. So It probably should have been a G2 win. And then also, I think if you're on stage in that situation and you're all rookies, like Doran said, like, dude, if you're in that situation and you're playing as G2 in game 5 and you're on stage, you're just sitting there like, I don't want to lose, man. You know, like, it's going to be...
Your butthole would be clenched, put it that way.
It's like a clench until, I don't know, maybe if something good happens, then you get the final, like, a release, but that whole time you're just sitting there like, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
That's why I always said, like, it's a point we've made a million times, so I won't belabor it, but it's the reason why teams like last year's TL are always a great bet in playoff scenarios, because when you get to that game 5 and they're just playing like scaling comps anyway, everyone's scared to do anything because it's game 5. Like, no, the problem is when you get to like game 5 on LAN, everyone would rather, as fucked as this sounds, like lose a questionable game than be the guy who makes the big play that loses the whole game, because you don't want to be the guy, like you don't want to be Sven last year in TSM. Yeah. That's way worse than being any of the other members of the team. So as much as it's easy to criticize, it's just a human psychology.
Yeah.
I get why people play safe.
I mean, Akaadian, you came here, you thought we were just going to be talking about, Dignitas' season, G2 game, etc. But we're just going to bring back all the fucking bad memories, man. We're going to be bringing up Sven. We're going to be talking about TSM last year. You're going to get all of it on the show.
To be fair, Dom, one thing you haven't thought about, mate, is you keep asking me every week what Froggen's like at the moment. Ask this fucking guy.
Yeah, that's exactly. I plan on doing it. I plan on doing it during the show. I mean, we got places to go before that, but that will definitely come into play. Yeah, I mean, I think that to go to your point even more about the close situations and how like veteran teams normally are able to pull through. I think that was kind of what we saw last week in the final game of NALCS 4 Team Liquid, where they played against Cloud9, where that felt like, to me, like the best game TL's played in weeks. Like, finally they had a game where they actually were doing something. Brox was proactive on the map. I felt like Brox had a really, really underwhelming split. I mean, you played against him. You can tell me how you viewed him, but from my perspective, I thought that he had been bad, and that was the first game I saw him actually do something early game. Yeah,
after watching the game, like, before that, I didn't care. Honestly, before that, all the games TL showed, I was just like, whatever. Like, I don't really mind if they lose playoffs. They kind of deserve it, But when they played versus C9, they did come back off a C9 throw, like, sort of a C9 throw. Like, Sven got caught at middle, and then they lost the Dragon situation, which turned to like the game. The game turned to like TL's hands basically for like 15 minutes. But I thought I was pretty sad, honestly, to see them go. I think I made a tweet about it, how it's just sad that they're out of playoffs, because I think if they're playing like that, then I wish that they could be back in and we could see them play and see how they maybe develop. I agree with you. I don't know if it was Broxa, like his own play. To me, from scrimming them and just playing against them, it just felt like like they're not very coordinated in the game. Like, they're not on the same page, really. Like, honestly, from playing TL last year in scrims even, and just on stage too, like, they just, I don't know, they know, like, it's pretty clear to me that they have a plan, they're trying to do something, and their decision making was like they would set up fights, set up flanks, stuff like that all the time. And then if they're losing something, they're usually trading for something else. A lot of the time, it just felt like there's there's got to be like some indecision or something. Like it almost felt like, because it's really weird because their players are really good on TL, like their individual players. I know they're all talented, but it just felt like I don't know, they just don't know what to do.
Did they still feel like they were like really good players like in game? Because for me, like obviously I think they just looked individually a lot worse. Like Impact was always
almost everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess my question to you would just be, do you actually think that they got individually worse, like lack of solo queue or something that made them, play, or is it just like pure coordination from your perspective?
I think some of their players were playing worse. Like we're not playing well. Like when they matched up against us in scrims, I think some of their players were consistently losing to our players. But I think the coordination thing, I mean, also Dig, I mean, I joined the team really late in the season, but we like struggle with coordination too. But once we sort of got it on track in like the last week or two of the split, and then once we started scrimming TL in like the later stages, that's kind of where I felt like the gap was. There was just like a team gap of like, okay, this is what we're playing for, and then we're going to do this. I think TL took advantage of like some of the easier stuff to play in the meta. Like they played a lot of Clissoteric, which was just like, that was pretty easy for them to do. But when they were off stuff like that, it seemed like harder for them to play.
I'm definitely with you on that characterization. That, like, I also thought the same thing. Like, yeah, on paper, the reason why everyone wanted Team Liquid in the playoffs is just because they're the reigning champs. You want, like, ideally, even for C9, you want them to get a chance to beat them in the playoffs and then become the champs. So no one can say any bullshit like, oh, it's because everyone's online or Brox or whatever. But the problem is, I also kind of felt the same way. The actual Team Liquid I was watching playing during the split, I don't want to see them in the playoffs. They were garbage. But then that last game, they did give you like the fake hope. Like that last game was one of the best actually anyone's played C9 all split long. So if that team makes the playoffs, especially with the double limp component, maybe they could get their shit together. Maybe it could have been really exciting, but too little too late now.
Yeah, dude. It's pretty sad. It's like I don't know, it's too juicy, dude. Like they lose in the last game and they play like that. Like it would have been easier to take if they just got like completely like dumpstered, And then you're just like, okay, whatever, TL sucks. But nobody feels like that, I don't think. I don't think anyone feels like they're like terrible, I literally feel like they could be good, but they didn't figure it out yet.
It's basically like that meme from like fucking whatever that Avengers movie is, where it's like, don't do that, don't give me hope. That's what he did. He gave us hope at the last second.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm sure if Loco was on the show, he'd give some analogy about a really hot girl like dick teasing you towards the end.
He would then go, yeah, it's kind of like the story, and then tell a totally like not related whatsoever the story, where the end is just like, and then she fucked me. Like that story.
It's actually so true. But I don't know. Like, I want to be sympathetic for them, but then if you just start remembering, it's like, how many times did this team have chances to make playoffs? I mean, they lost to CLG IMT like 2 weeks before this, and then they didn't even beat EG or like even stand up to EG. Like they just let EG just fucking roll over them the day before. So it's like, I mean, I kind of feel bad for them, but at the same time, it's like, how many chances did you fucking need? I mean, it didn't seem like we were getting a really competitive. No offense to you, Katie, but it didn't seem like we were getting a really competitive 6 seed playoff team. Like all the teams were like I think it was 8 and 10, right? 8 and 10 was the break point to get into playoffs. So we're getting a losing team in playoffs, and TL couldn't even make that. So.
By the way, I'll even throw in there as well, it's actually even worse that they didn't make the playoffs, even though, yes, like they certainly have the extenuating circumstances at the beginning of the split where they didn't have Broxer and they were like working with this new lineup that wasn't the real team. But the reason why it's actually, I think, even worse that they didn't make playoffs once they got Broxer is because the main thing everyone's been complaining about in LCS is that outside of Cloud9, everyone else looks super fragile. Like you saw at the end of the split, even like the second best team for most of the split was FlyQuest. They were even dropping off by the end. Immortals were like second and third. They were right down there. So there's been so much like turnover between 2 and 8 basically in the league that actually they had the best possible chance to do some crazy last second rotation run like Fnatic did last year in Europe, where you win like, I don't know, 8 out of 9 games or something. Like in theory, this should have been doable if they actually were good like they were in the last game. But the fact they didn't, I mean, they've only got themselves to blame. I'm with you on that, Dom. Like they had a million chances.
Yep. I mean, and it wasn't like they even had a tough schedule, like they had the weakest fucking possible schedule. Like that's why they, in my opinion, like up until the end, I thought they were just going to make playoffs, because like when you're having to beat like what if you just 2-0 the week of CLG IMT, which for my money, like I know that obviously TL ended up 9th. I feel like Immortals is just such a bad team throughout most of the split.
When was that week?
I think week 7, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, so week 7 they have CLG IMT, and I think that was coming off a pretty decent week for them as well, and then they just ended up losing it. That was the same, it was CLG IMT week 7, and then in week 6 is when Tactical had like the breakout performance, and they ended up benching Doublelift. So I was definitely expecting more from them there, and then like once they went 0-2 that week, I just really didn't give a fuck anymore. I was just like, all right, man, like if you're gonna throw this fucking week, then you don't deserve to make playoffs. And even with them throwing that week, I think it was so incredible is all the other teams, like going into this week, Immortals had to win one game to get to playoffs. They were 8-8. They had to win one game to get to make it to playoffs, and they got, what, 4 chances? 4 chances to win one game or something, or 3 chances? Because one of them was, I guess, to get to the final game of the tiebreaker. But still, it's like you have to win 1 out of 4 games or 1 out of 3 games to make playoffs, and you can't do it. And they didn't even have, like, a specifically hard schedule either. So seeing them just, like, still botch it. It's like, how bad did they, like, because teams like Dignitas, teams like Golden Guardians shouldn't have even had a chance. There shouldn't have even been tiebreakers. It should have been a pretty clear, like Immortal 6 seed, and they still ended up botching it. So at this point, it's like, sure, it looked like there was hope at the end, but man, did you have the perfect, like, situation set up for the Cinderella. Like, the Riot script couldn't have been any fucking better.
Yeah, I even messaged Jensen after we beat. And that, I don't know, the super long game, I don't know if you guys watched or fell asleep or whatever, but there was like 55-minute game where IMT lost to us eventually.
Yes.
It was like super stalled. And then after that, I messaged Jensen and was like, I got your back.
Yeah.
Or something like that. I was just like, we did it or something.
Man, no, I watched that game live with Niski, and we were just sitting there the whole time. We were sitting there the whole time like, what is Ezreal building? Because they had like Ocean Soul, they had all the sustain in the world, and Ezreal went triple lifesteal item. I'm like, please just build a fucking Last Whisper. At some point, get a fucking Last Whisper so you can win the game. Nope. BT comes out, like, it's like, come on, man. You're like the God mode Ezreal. You're into an Olaf. Like, how could you possibly lose that game? It just seems unlosable.
You're telling me, dude, I spent 20 minutes of that game standing in a bush, like S-keyed, basically. It's just like...
Yep.
It was so boring.
I was proud of you for going Cinderhulk in that game, though. I feel like a lot of players wouldn't be smart enough to go Cinderhulk in that game, and you need to go Cinderhulk in that game. So, we were both talking about it. We're like, oh, let's see how big Akaadian's brain is, and we just realized, okay, he's a fucking 5-head. He went the Cinderhulk route in that game.
I think most games Cinderhulk is better. Most games, like 80%.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. We'll see. That game should have been so over though. It's really crazy. But you're right. Immortals just they got some stuff to work on for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that team is just the most, like, I flame them all the time, but the reason why I flame them is because they're, like, the least inspiring team. Like, at least you can get excited about the other teams, Like, there's some firepower there. It's like, oh, shit, Dignitas, Frog, and Huni. Like, those are, like, some big fucking names. Those are guys that, like, have, like, Johnson, like, young rookie talent. Like, Akaadian's back. Like, maybe there's some hope going into, like, next split. Like, you guys can be a playoff team, etc. Like, for example, Golden Guardians, Hanser, Closer. Like, there's reasons for me to like the other teams, but I just have no, like... IMT, like, how dead are all these players? Like, all these players are just, like, only brains, fingers. Like, I'm just so tired of watching them play.
I don't know if they... I wouldn't say they're, like, dead. They just have 5 role players on one team, in my opinion.
Exactly.
Just a bad composition of players,
Yeah, they literally just, like, whoever picked all the players together didn't think about who's going to carry the team. Like, who's going to be the person we play around here. They don't have a person like that, in my opinion.
Ica, bro. He's going to fucking 1v9 every game, dude. He's too good.
Absolute meme, dude. I'm not going to get into that, but, like, I don't know.
Dude, this is a team that, like it's one of the best examples I can give in my, like, never-ending fucking war against people who believe in the global meta in League of Legends. Because people who act like it's just the champions and like, oh, but this is a strong top lane champion. It's like, who's your top laner? Like, it's irrelevant if your top laner isn't good, is it? So similarly, if you have Ica, it doesn't matter what the mid lane champion pool is. You're not drafting some super sick comp that's going to win you a game against Cloud9. Like, you don't have the personnel to do it. Like, this is the area I still feel like is the most, like, underdeveloped in esports, is like the GM role, basically, because like the coach doesn't pick the players half the time. I know in this case he supposedly did pick like Ica as the mid laner or something. So when you're putting together players, the off season, as much as fans might not believe it, still is just like you're getting each player in isolation. Like, I'm trying to get the best jungler I can, right? I'm trying to get the best AD carry I can, and at the end you just hope you've got like a functional fucking but team you can make something out of, and Immortals had nothing.
Who are these GMs that are picking these players? Like, I swear to God, it's like these guys just don't actually watch the game. They don't participate. Like, they're just trying to do things based off like, oh shit, that guy was good like 8 years ago. Well, shit, man, maybe he'll be good this year. Like, they just want to go for like high names, and they want to put together like names that are going to look exciting to their fan base rather than actually put it like trying to see like who is good right now, like which players are strong.
I think that part will catch up soon. I think like the overall, like from a lot of players and just people in the scene, I heard that many times where everyone's just like, whoever is doing the roster decisions just needs to be fired. Like I can't tell you how many times I've heard that from people. Just there's so many like random rosters that get put together that you don't really understand like the mindset behind. And also a lot of like the pickups that happened this year in NA are like really mega questionable. It's just, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a GM and I'm not gonna like, I don't know, whatever.
I'm not a GM either, but I mean, I know your boy DeMonte is fucking better than Ika. Like I know DeMonte has to be better than Ika.
And he would carry.
Yeah. DeMonte was like, it was a struggle for him to get over like the mental hump of I have to play Academy again after playing LCS and Worlds, dude. Like, and now I have to go play against this guy who like doesn't know anything.
You have to play against fucking Saligo, bro. That's the transition.
I mean, it was hard, but I mean, you gotta adjust to the mental. Okay, this is my competition now. I have to win in this style of play. They're gonna play like this. I can't get affected by it. You know, like I don't know, just.
Yeah, and you wanna still put your best foot forward because people are gonna value Academy to some degree when looking to pick you up. But
I mean, for Academy, it's like, it blows that you're playing Academy, but that's also like you're still performing. That's still like your job, right? So you have to put up like a really good performance there. And then honestly, if you're a player that if your goal is to be an LCS and you were in LCS previously, then like you have to be putting up like elite performance every game, in my opinion. You really can't just like be dropping the ball at all. So
so I think
this Immortals lineup now, I think it should go down in history with the best analogy I have for it in terms of like narrative is when Rainova went to Team Liquid and then CLG, and those teams were terrible because what happened is that's an example again of a GM being like, this Rainova guy's been amazing on Fnatic and Immortals, like get him on our team. And it's like, no, but what you had to ask yourself is why was he amazing on those teams? So the difference is he went from having Hooney as his top player to with like Lolo, and then in CLG it was like washed up Zion Spartan, and then his mid lane is fucking Hui. Like, what do you think he's going to do? He's got like, you haven't got anything to activate his strengths. So similarly, like Xmithy before this split was winning every fucking championship. But the question is, what type of players was he playing with? These aren't the players that he can work with. Like it made him look stupid, but it's because he just had nothing to work with.
I really hope people don't come out of this Immortal season, because I've seen a lot of people like making fun of Xmithy, saying Xmithy's so washed up, he's so bad, etc. I really hope this is not like a narrative that people actually believe, because I can tell you from playing against him like for quite a while and just seeing how he plays, like I watch his pro view stuff, for sure this guy has a really insane brain, and he's the type of player he is. He's very like, if you put him with players that can carry, he will jungle around you very well and just he'll just be a great teammate. He'll be a great jungler, but he just doesn't have that right now. So I really hope people don't think he's bad.
Yeah, no. So I've been saying the same thing. I think that his strengths lie in being an intelligent player, and I feel like you want like young mechanical talent around him to develop. It's like you want somebody who, like, I would rather see him play with like Ika than Ryoma than Ika. You know, like somebody who's like, oh, you're young, you could potentially like do something. Like you have mechanics, you can carry a game, and then like have them kind of like develop around him, instead of like this whole thing where it's like, oh, you just have him like he's just a role player. And I do think that his mechanics are not better than like the other junglers in the league. Like I don't think that there's ever going to be a situation where he's going to like out mechanically perform you or Dardoch or closer even. Like I don't think that that's happening. So
his like highlight is not his mechanics, but like also I feel like mechanics are kind of just like a bar. You need to be at the bar or above, and then you're fine. And then, but if you're below the bar, it's pretty obvious because you messed
like a threshold. Basically, you have to reach a certain level before it matters. Yeah,
and Xmithy has that. So like, he's not going to be like, I think Closer is way better than him mechanically, right? He can do cooler stuff. He can do more complicated stuff, but it's not like a deciding factor, I think, in their strength level overall.
Yeah. That being said, like, I still can't rate Xmithy high based on like the season. You know, like there's no way that I can go into that season and I can say that Xmithy outperformed Closer. And
definitely not. I'm just saying, like, I hope people don't think he's like bad.
Yeah, I don't think he should never play in LCS. I don't think he should never play in LCS.
I've been seeing that. I've been seeing people say like, I don't know, like I read Reddit and saw someone say, or people saying like, oh yeah, Xmithy just needs to retire, too old, as I saw, like stuff like that. It's just crazy. Like, don't be saying that. It's not a real thing.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that's a fair assumption. Well, I guess going the Academy route, there's one thing that popped into my mind, which is like this eternal battle that you've been having with Greg for like starting spots for like what 4 years now, 3 years now, something like that. I think it's far back as season 7 is when you started like directly competing with him. So I just wanted to know like how is the relationship between you and Greg, because it must be weird that you guys have been on like what 3 different teams now competing for the starting spot. Like it must be just different. I don't think we've had something like that before in esports.
Well, I will say that the only team that we actually competed for the spot on really was TSM. I think Fox was more of I came into the year just didn't really know what I was doing, was like a complete solo queue player still basically, and then I played that style in LCS when it was carry junglers. It was like Graves, kha'zix, Rengar were the best champions, and those are also my best champions. Like I used to be a Rengar one trick and a Graves one trick at one point, so like I was just shitting on people those champs.
Literally
and then they changed the meta to where like you have to actually play the game as a jungler, and you have to play like vision control, you have to think about tempo, stuff like that, objective control, and I was really bad at all those things. And I think I was just really underperforming on Fox, and then they put John in because I think John knew a little bit more than me at that time of that stuff. And then the TSM thing was not intentional at all. It was just like I didn't have a good place to go after Optic because I had a really bad year on Optic. Like individually, I think my summer performance was really awful, and then spring was like okay. And I just randomly got put in. And then the summertime was the only time that we actually like competed against each other, which I think, I mean, throughout all of it, like our relationship was okay. We talked to each other about just jungle stuff, pathing, etc., stuff like that. We were in contention, but it's never been like it's not a thing where he hates me or I hate him or I view him as like my competitor. It's just like we're both trying to get as good as we can. Not really like versus the other person. I even sent him a message when I joined Dig. I was like, hey, I just said something along the lines of like, I didn't join to take your job. Like I just joined.
You didn't hit him with sorry I took your job. You didn't hit him with the Mike Young.
It was like, I'm about to end this man's whole career.
No, I basically just told him. I told him like when I joined Dig, I told the Dig management I never want what happened on TSM summer to happen again. I'm not down with a situation like that, which I should have told TSM from the start. But I just told him I'm not okay with splitting scrims ever. I'm gonna either be on Academy or be on LCS, and that's how I want it to be. And if you don't want that, then I mean, just get someone else or something. And I sent John that message and just said like, I'm not here to take your job. I'm just gonna try to get as good as I can in Academy and just like play well.
Yeah.
And it's been fine. Our relationship's not like.
You never felt like you had to like withhold information, or you just wanted to like keep some things for yourself because you are like competing
no, not really.
Okay.
I mean, I think you're like actual. I don't know. I used to think something like that. I used to think that's how it was when I first started playing, but I really don't think that's how it works. I think your performance in games is like, it's almost like you get all this knowledge and then you can make a plan, but then how you actually perform comes down to like, I don't know, just your innate like skill, literally, like how you smite stuff, how you team fight, stuff like that, how you skirmish, stuff like that is I don't know. I don't think it's something that I have to like hold back information from at all. Like I think if I'm playing well, then I'll just play well, and it's fine.
Yeah.
So one thing I've found. Oh, sorry. Do you have a point?
Well, no. I just wanted to say. So, what'd you say week 7 when they're like, "Yeah, well, fuck what you thought. You're starting now." Like,
exactly.
What was your mentality there?
He was like, "I'm the Greg now. Like, get the fuck out. It's my turn."
I kind of had a feeling it was happening, or it might happen, because just due to the fact that main team, the Dig main team was like booming. They were like playing really bad, getting like mauled in scrims. They were like really tilted all the time. Because we can like watch their scrims on like, there's like a private stream, right? So all the Academy players are just every day constantly like, we'd scrim and then we'd be watching the main team scrim, see how they're doing, what champs they're playing, stuff like that. And it was pretty stressful, I think. Hang on a second. What the hell? Sorry, I'm getting a lot of messages somehow. It was a little stressful at first. Like I think my mindset behind all of it was just like, okay, I was doing well in Academy and I'm like unfazed, I guess, by some of the players on my team were like more demanding or something. And I think my personality type is more suited to play with them than John's was. Honestly, I think that's like a big part of why I got changed anyways. But I don't know. It wasn't that stressful. I was just pretty excited to play in LCS again because, dude, honestly, nobody cares about Academy at all.
Yeah,
Even if
no,
you're just
I mean-
stomping everyone, like just no one gives a crap. Like everyone's
Academy
just
is
like
so
like
dead.
NA already. NA LCS is already kind of a meme. Like people already make fun of NA LCS, and then when you go down to NA Academy, it's like haha, you killed some guy in NA Academy. You got like a pentakill in NA Academy. Haha, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
No, I've
But-
watched like 2 games of NA Academy the entire season. That was about enough for me.
One thing I don't get, I want to ask is, like, is Grig different in scrims or in the off season or something? Because one thing I've found very bizarre about when the two of you have been on all these teams is the teams nearly always seem to like pick him, but I've never got that because I've only seen obviously like his official games in LCS, and to me he's always just looked like an okay jungler. He's like a fairly like just a mediocre jungler. So I don't know why. Like you've obviously had moments like spring last year where you were looking really good. Why have they kept making the decision the other way? Is he some scrim god or something? What's the hype around Grig? I've never got it really.
Well, as someone who has seen him scrim for 3 years now, yeah, he does do. He tends to do a little better in scrims than in stage. I think he takes more risks in scrims, which is just like, I don't know. When you're playing on stage, you have to make sure that like you're still playing the game, right? You can't just like only make 100% plays. You have to go for things. You have to try and like test yourself against the other people to get kills, get pressure, stuff like that. I'm not gonna say like I don't want everyone to think he's like a scrim like. I'm not saying he's like scrim faker or something because it's not like he's winning all his games, but I would say he tends to play more aggressive in scrims than stage, and I think if he did that in his like actual matches, they would probably go better. I think, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm not gonna say he's like insane in scrims, like I said, but maybe he's a little more aggressive.
Because obviously the most egregious example of this was the one after the spring split last year, because like, you almost won the LCS. And yet, like what we were told, I can't remember how much this was official, but I'm pretty sure it was said publicly, was something along the lines of like they'd already promised he'd have his spot like when he came back from injury or something. So they had to like give him a try or something. Like that seems like the other ones are different. If it's just an off season, you got 2 players, you pick one guy based on scrims, that's one thing. Didn't that kind of feel bullshit to you though? Like you earned your spot when you make it all the way to the final, surely?
Yeah, I mean, I think I just made a huge like. I mean, I made like a pretty big error in a lot of the ways that I handled the stuff that happened last year. Yeah, I had that feeling when Parth like took a walk with me and told me that they're gonna try splitting time with me and John, and that was my immediate thought. Like the first, like as soon as he told me that, I was thinking, "Are you serious?" Like, I thought. I mean. I definitely struggled last playoffs. I had like some massive jitters when we played C9. Like I had some just like crazy mental block in the first game or two where it didn't feel like I was playing like myself at all, and I just played horrible. Like literally, we just got jungle difference twice, like major jungle gap, and then I like came back from it, recovered, started playing more normally in game 3, and then in game 4 and game 5 against C9, I played really well. I thought like I did my thing, you know. So it felt really bad. And then also like when we played TL, I know we lost, but
You smurfed
like
it.
for me, like I was super happy that I just played normally, you know. Like I was thinking, like before the series, that's all I was thinking about. I was just like, dude, I just want to play like a freaking normal human, like it's a game, like sitting in my living room, you know. And I don't want to get affected by there was like I don't know 10,000 people or something in the stage, which I was just really happy that I played normally, and we almost won. And then hearing that it was kind of, I don't know. It didn't sit well with me, and I should have just said, I don't want that, and offered to play Academy or something instead. I think it would have been better.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I thought about there is like, how much different would it have been if you guys actually won? Because it feels like the difference between, like, I think it's a lot easier to make that decision when you guys ended up second, even regardless of, like, the fact that it wasn't on you, like, that you guys lost the like, everyone knows that Sven throw. That was, like, probably the most epic throw we've ever seen from a player across all finals. Like in the history
One
of League
of
of
the few
Legends.
times you can actually say,
Like,
yeah,
this
that guy
motherfucker,
there,
yeah.
he's the one who cost us the game. Like normally that's exaggeration if you say that, but like even Sven himself will probably be like, yeah, that was pretty bad.
Yeah, so from my perspective, I think that like it's how much different would it have been if you guys actually won the championship? If it was like, hey, like because I feel like when your team wins and it's like, hey, like TL has won the last I think 2 championships before that. If you guys suddenly won, like then it's like, oh man, we have a winning formula. Like don't fuck it up. Don't fix what's don't break what's not broken or whatever.
The thing that I
fucking
didn't
term
get
goes.
that I really disagree with about the whole thing is like Parth's mindset that the fact that we were even in finals, like he said it in his post that like he thought it was like a fluke and that we're actually like
he basically agreed that the team had overperformed, didn't he? I think he said that
he basically just
said it was
we
a fluke.
overperformed. And I was just sitting there like, what the fuck? Are you serious? Like, okay, because honestly, in even in practice, we were stomping like everyone basically. At the end of last season, we were winning most of our scrims against all the teams. Like before we ended up losing TL, we had like, I think when we were playing Fox and when we were playing before we played C9, we scrimmed TL a decent amount, I think. And I just remember those games were like we were like 4-1ing them, 5-1, or what was it? It was like 4-1ing sometimes. Like most of the time we were 4-1 against them.
It means as in they played a best of 5 and he won 4. Just in case people think you mean 4-1 inside the game. Like obviously you don't mean.
Oh
like,
no.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, we were winning the majority of our practice games. So it was really weird for me to like hear him say that, and I don't know if he meant like me or if he meant other people or just our team in general. But our team was like, we definitely hit a point in the season where it kind of just clicked for us, like how we were going to play together. Like week 5, week 6, something like that. Around that time, we started playing way better together. I'm not going to say we were like perfect because we obviously weren't, but I didn't think it was like a major over performance.
Yeah.
From us.
I also think that it kind of ruined your guys' momentum, you know? Even though you did lose the finals, it felt like if you keep the same team, it was like, hey, this team is probably going to go to Worlds in that condition. I feel like once you guys started messing with the roster and like that ended up being 3 different junglers, that it makes it much harder to like get back to that. Because like even if you guys didn't perform necessarily better than you did in spring, you still probably make it to Worlds. You still probably end up top 3. I mean, I don't think Clutch Gaming was this insane team that just like went on the unbeatable run, and they were like a team that I was proud to send to Worlds. Like when they went to Worlds and I saw their group, I'm like, yeah, they're gonna go 0-6. Like it just didn't feel like they had a chance, you know? So, I mean, to be honest, it just felt like we had two Worlds caliber teams last year, and it was like the third could have been anyone. It could have been CLG, it could have been Clutch, it could have been even
C9.
Yeah. I mean, could have been TSM. C9 ended up second. So I mean, I don't know. I just felt personally that decision to start messing with the roster just lost a bunch of momentum without the team, because obviously when you guys do that, you're probably splitting a lot more scrims, and it just like changes like the pace.
Dude.
Okay.
By the way, that's something I always wanted to know actually as well. Obviously, to some fans, they're going to think like, yeah, but it's not like they literally just took you straight out and then Greg was in and then you never got another chance. Like obviously, you played a bunch of the games to start the summer's player, and then they did rotate the two of you in and out. But the problem I have with that, which is what I wanted to ask about, is that's very different from just playing a normal game. Like basically, that's like auditioning for your job every day. Like every day, you feel like fuck, if I have a bad game, you know that they're at least thinking like, when do we put Greg in? Like that's like not everyone's going to be able to handle that pressure. Like, that could fuck your game up.
Yeah, I mean, people have speculated this about me in the past because, I mean, people have met me and know the type of person I am, shit like that. But I'm definitely the type of player, like basically how it felt to me.
Yeah, he's a massive Chad, just big asshole outside of the game. You know, that's the type of guy that Akaadian is, man.
Oh yeah, perfect.
He was like, why don't we just both whip our dicks out now, and whoever's bigger gets to play, right? You in? Why are you looking away, Greg?
No, I mean, just for me, like, I think it's really important for me to feel like my teammates have confidence in me, and my org has confidence in me to play. Like, there was literally a time last year where just the way that Sven communicates when he like makes a mistake or something, he like gets upset, like he sighs or something, and then if he ever died to the enemy jungler and he sighed in game, I'd be sitting there like, fuck, that's my fault that he just died. Like, he's probably thinking like, oh man, this fucking cancer
this fucking
man, like,
Pislo, like
yeah, he's just sitting there thinking something like that, like, oh man, if I had a jungler, this game's fucking over, you know, like. And I mean, it was hard for me too, because I had like a lot of catching up to do. I think when I actually got to play with good players, I had like a period of time where I was like really, really bad. Like I had a month of just like, I had no idea what I was doing. I was just getting mauled every game, and then slowly I had to like learn. But there was a point in time in spring where I just like, we were like out, we were going drinking or something. I was just like, do you have confidence in me to like to just jungle well? And he was like, yeah, dude, what the hell, like completely, like you're fine. And then after that, I felt like a huge like, I don't know, like release of just like, okay, now I can do my thing. It's my team now, and then I can just like play. And then in summer, that was gone. In summer, it was just like my org and my teammates are questioning my ability to play every time that I play. And I mean, I know they're not saying that with their words, but that was the situation. And also, it was just like, for me at least, I don't know how John was taking it. I've never really like asked him how he took the season. All I know from him is confirmed that he just said is like it was really annoying. Like he really hated it. So maybe he feels the same as me. But like there was scrim days where I would 3-0 and John would 0-3, and I'm sure he felt terrible on those days. There was days where I would 0-3 and he would 3-0, and I'm sure I felt fucking so stressed out. I'd be sitting there like, holy shit, man, like I'm not gonna, like they're just gonna pick him if I keep playing like this. I have to change it fast. Like, and then it also doesn't help that like John and I's communication, like the way that we communicate is so different, and the way that we interact with our teammates is so different from each other that like, I don't know. I think nobody could like get used to the team, you know? It's just completely different because the jungler interacts with everyone. So it's like you're going from one style and one type of person to another type of person constantly, and then you just, I don't know.
I think the one thing that has been consistent, because I've talked to like all the former TSM junglers, is that no TSM jungler feels more comfortable on TSM than they do on other teams.
Exactly.
And I feel like that is the main reason why we keep on seeing all, because like you saw Sven Skaren at the end of TSM and he looked like trash, and then he goes to C9 and he's suddenly winning an MVP in like 2 years, you know? And Santorin said the same thing when we talked to him, that it feels like there's just more pressure on you from being on TSM. So I guess what I wanted to ask you would be like, do you think that comes from just the organization itself and like how like stressful it is to be in that team, or do you think it's just because it's like the most like crazy fan base, or they have like the most fans that makes you feel like, you know, there's so much pressure on you when you're jungling for that team?
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that it's not necessarily like the TSM org hates their junglers or something. I just think that
Okay.
I think that jungling is the role. Jungling is the role with the most like I don't know, initial decision making, and you need to be like pretty free flow and make the correct decisions for the situation. And I think all the other roles are, you know, you have a matchup, and then you go to your lane and you play your matchup the way you're supposed to, and then you do your thing, right? And I think it's just harder to do the things that you feel are the correct thing to do, but like go against the perfect way of playing, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like TSM is chasing constantly this perfect way of playing, and a lot of the time it fucks with their like creativity. Basically it fucks with their like their game flow, their actual game flow. Like you need to just be playing the game, I feel like. And I mean, it's hard to say, because in spring I thought we were like doing that. It was fine. Like honestly, it was fine. I didn't even know what people were talking about when I heard about this like TSM pressure. I thought it was like a fake thing. I think that most of the pressure just came from like the role swap thing between me and John, and it came from the org when we were doing poorly, like Reginald coming in and just trying to help our team. Like there's just all this added pressure from the org, and then it was very apparent to me that everyone's like, why the hell aren't you guys stomping everyone? You know, like there was just that feeling, why aren't you guys at the top, etc. So it might be that. I mean, definitely TSM, as opposed to like the way my current team is right on Dig, it feels like at least the way that I think about this way, even on the Academy team and the Dig main team, it was the same. It was like, okay, I have the responsibility for the early game and like how we're gonna generally play for the most part, and everyone's just fine with that, right? But maybe on TSM it's more like questioning what I'm doing, or like making sure that I'm doing the right thing a lot of the time. But
they're like gaslighting. They're literally gaslighting you the whole fucking time. You're just like sitting there. It's like, oh, are you sure that was the best pass? Well, if you say it's the best path, then you're the jungler, man. It must be the best path then. Like
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say, because like I saw someone say that in the past, and it like made it look like, because I told someone at some point that like TSM reviews were like me getting flamed or something. Like that was just the whole review. I mean,
I remember you thought that you said that to me when I talked to you at TwitchCon. Like you were like, "Oh shit!"
Really?
Like I didn't mean that. Like yeah, when we talked, it was like I was like, "No, I didn't hear like anything."
I think it was Loco you said that to, actually, because I'm pretty sure he said something like that on the show one time. Something along those lines.
Okay, so whatever. When that was said, I felt like that came across really wrong, because it's not like I'm not a perfect player at all. Like I make mistakes for sure, it's not like I should never get flamed in review or that shouldn't have happened, but it's definitely like a thing. Like there's always like the early game, and then let's look at the jungle path, and then I mean, usually the jungle path is like there's a plan. Usually when you play League, there's like there's so many different styles of how you can jungle. If you want to flip the game, you can do red buff, you can gank somewhere. If you want to take a flash for free, like if I'm playing Jarvan and I'm playing with like a double mage matchup, a lot of the time I'll just start sweeper, go mid, EQ flash, take their flash, and then my mid laner's pushing for 5 minutes. Like there's so many different ways that you can jungle. You can also go for max efficiency. You can go for pressure, try to kill the enemy jungler 1v1. So I don't know. There's just like a lot of random stuff you could do, like different stuff you could do. And then I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going on at TSM right now with their juke, but yeah, I mean,
I think this ties into what you were saying earlier, though. Like, jungle is arguably the only role in the game where you have to have your teammates trust you. Otherwise, how are you going to work with them? Like, as much as everyone, like, a perfect example would be like Hooney on your team. He always gets loads of criticism, but if he has the right champion and he has a good game, like, no one can stop him from just carrying the game. Like, it's on him. He can play however he wants. He's the top laner. But if you're the jungler, and even if it's actually the case, if you just feel like your teammate, this laner here, doesn't trust you or blames you for a failed gank or something, it's going to affect your confidence, of course. You can see totally how psychologically that could throw you off. Oh yeah, I have to apologize, by the way, because actually that wasn't Path last year. That was me in a secret mask. Like, I came in, I was like, right, everyone in here, listen up, TSM players. Finals was a fluke. Cloud9 should have won, obviously, but Reaper into the draft and cut Akaadian. Actually, let's start our process of ruining the jungle now. Yep, bring Greg in. Yep, and then after that, I untied.
Thorn, I thought it started getting real fucking obvious when you started subbing in Speaker. That's when I was like, all right, Thorn, fucking take off the mask.
Like, come on, man, let's go too far. At least make it plausible that you're actually Path. Exactly.
Well, one thing I was gonna just ask about was how much truth? So I heard from another. So like obviously like we went out and we like broke the whole story of like TSM drama. Obviously,
by broke the drama, you mean you just dropped the dime and literally switched on all the shit?
Yeah, I just let it fucking go.
You made it sound like you were like journalists, like we're exposing all the corruption. Like you just dropped dime on all the juicy shit you were told.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things I was told by a direct member from TSM was that you were getting like the VOD reviews just were boiling down into you just getting flamed for 5 minutes.
And didn't they specifically say by
how much truth?
As well?
Yeah,
they tried to make it sound like
exactly.
it was the harshest, right?
So that's what we were told. How much truth was there to that? Were there some times where it was like that and sometimes there wasn't, or like how did it really go?
Just to add a detail as well, Akaadian, when we did the Summon Insight episode at the beginning of this year where we had Sven on and he was talking about his time in TSM, he made it pretty clear that actually that particular year, like he'd wanted to go back to Europe, like obviously they had all the problems with Mike Young and the jungle scenario. So I actually imagine it sounds plausible that he was unhappy generally with how things were. Was some of this playing a role?
Well, I mean, I think... I just have to say whatever. I think some of my teammates had like PTSD from the previous year, just with like how they had to deal with the jungler. Because I think Mike Young got put in LCS way before he was ready. You know how I talked about what I said, where I really struggled on Fox after a little bit, where I needed to learn how to actually play League, how vision works, how stuff like that works. That's like an entirely different skill, right? Mike Young was like me, except he got put on TSM where he had to learn that stuff instead of I just lost on Fox. And like to be honest, like everyone expected Fox to be like
no one was hitting on you then.
So I mean then it was just like, oh well, he doesn't look as good, like whatever, he's gonna try to get his stuff figured out. But if you're on TSM who has to win no matter what, it's like F this guy, like we gotta figure out a way, like an easy way to play with him, So maybe that played a role. I'm not really sure. I think I had PTSD mostly because of the actual like people from TSM coming in. Like, I don't know if I want to say this.
I mean, team just needed therapy at that point. Like, from what you're saying. Like,
yeah,
this is crazy.
I don't know, man. I think there was like a specific point that I remember that just really like messed with me when Reggie came in and said some stuff. It just really just shot my confidence completely, and I think that's probably why I said that to you at some point.
No, you didn't say that. See, that's the thing. You've always said this. You've always said that you said something to me at some point. You never said anything to me. Like it was.
Whatever. Well, he said it now. So
he's saying it now. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, whatever, man. It just happened once, and then he said something that just like made me think I was shit. Like
Yeah.
completely like I don't know. I just it was a struggle, but
That's
Yeah,
a specialty.
I mean, yeah.
That's rough.
Maybe
That's rough.
I should have just been like more of a Chad and just been like fuck you, like responded like that. But that's just not the way I responded. I responded thinking like maybe it's true, and then I started questioning all my decisions that I was making for like
Maybe
the
I am
entire
shit.
time. I don't know.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's
Like being as obviously we've been ourselves overlapping into the topic of like the whole narrative of like TSM and junglers, which is a pretty like infamous topic to discuss.
Yeah.
It looks like it's going to be one every single year in League of Legends apparently. But taking that aside, right, it's sort of connected, but it's not as like drama based. What was it like to work with Bjergsen as a mid laner? Because often people tie it to him because obviously he's the only player that's been in the team for like I don't know, like 6-7 years now or something. So is he? Does he have a different way of working with junglers? Does he have a different perception of how a jungler should play or something? Like, how would you describe working with him?
To be honest, I really enjoyed playing with Soren. I mean, we kind of hit it. I'm not gonna say hit it off because it sounds like a relationship.
Holy
but like,
shit. Okay.
Things are getting hot and heavy.
I felt like we were like instantly.
He always wanted a Chad like you.
Sort of close.
It felt like it.
it like instantly felt like we were sort of close on the team, like when I first joined. And I mean, we just duoed a lot, played a lot. It felt like, I mean, he was, I don't know, he was always just really good. He explained exactly what he needed to do. I think his communication is like really, really insane. He's like one of the best communicators I've played with in a while when it comes to like clutch, like late game shot calling, stuff like that. Just stuff like that is like, I don't know. He was really good, honestly. And he was like probably the best laner in the league. I know that in this year and then maybe in last year too, laning doesn't matter as much anyways, but he was really good for the most part. I enjoyed playing with him, and I didn't feel like he was one of those people who's like, you have to come mid right now, or like,
right.
He was like, if I needed second blue buff really bad because I got fucked really hard or something, and I need to get 6 faster, he'd be like, okay, like he understands, I felt like I didn't feel like he was pulling me around or something.
Yeah, this is what I always hear from every player that's played with Bjergsen, which obviously factors into how much I respect him. Like, I've never heard anyone play with Bjergsen and been like, yeah, fuck that guy. That guy's a piece of shit. Like, everyone just always talks so highly of like his work ethic, like how much he wants to win as a player, and like how good of a teammate he is. So yeah, I mean, I just think that this whole narrative, it always bothers me seeing this narrative in the community that it's like he's washed up or something like that. I still think he's like a really fucking good player. And I think if you don't put him top 3 in terms of like this split as a mid laner, you're just delusional with like your placement of him.
Yeah, dude, I think there's like a real gap in mid laners' mindsets right now. Like, I don't think it's a skill gap. I think it's a mindset gap between a lot of players, to be honest. Like, I think that's the thing. Like, you could say that about a lot of people, that they're good at what they're doing. It's just like what they're doing is not the best thing to do, I guess. Like, if you watch Niski, like Blabber's really good. Don't get me wrong, but Niski helps Blabber so much, and then Blabber just runs everyone over. Like, it's not balanced, man. Like, he's just playing like heal, conquer, rumble, pushing your, like, even that one game, I know he got lucky and picked up a smite and stole the enemy mid laner's or the enemy jungler's blue buff, but even the fact that like he's pushing mid, leaving his lane, walking to blue buff, putting a ward down to find the enemy jungler. He
RNG'd redemption to get that push, but I respect it. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. He did RNG, and I was watching the game on Blabber's Pro View, and then I was like, Tanner. I went to Tanner's room. I'm like, Tanner, come watch this guy. Like, look at what he's doing. This is so insane, right? And then Tanner's so mad.
This is the jungler's dream.
Yeah. He's like, a redemption and then a smite. Fuck this guy.
Yeah, Tanner's like, he's the luckiest guy in the world, right? But like, I think it's just like the mindset to help your jungler like that is like really OP, and I think, I don't know. Maybe that's. Yeah, that's one thing that every mid could.
Jungle is fucking just lane difference. Like, how do people not understand this?
Okay, literally the game works. The way the game works is jungle's lane difference, and then once the jungle difference comes, then lane is jungle difference.
Yes.
And then once you get to 15 minutes, jungle doesn't matter anymore. But
yes, respect.
That's how the game works.
Respect. This is why we have you on the show.
The way this was described to me once by Veteran, I thought it was a good way to explain it to like people who aren't experts about the game, is the jungler has to basically be activated by the lanes before he can do anything. So if he can't get to that point in the game, it is literally lane difference at that point, because you can't do anything in the game if all your lanes are super behind, obviously. But obviously, after that point, once you're activated, now you can be blamed if you fuck the game up,
Yeah, for sure. No, I definitely agree with that. One thing that we could go to would be the common perception. I've talked to a lot of pro players this year, excuse me, where they were talking about LCS and how they feel like the level of LCS this year is lower than in previous years. Is this like an idea that you subscribe to, or do you think there's a reason why the games look a little bit worse? Like, what is your perception of the strength of LCS this year compared to like other years that you've played LCS?
Okay, so my perception, first off, I think C9 is better than TL was, just based off of the way the game works right now and the way that C9 plays. I like it a lot more than the way TL used to play, even though TL was, I mean, I think C9 has been more dominant, clearly.
Yes.
But I think C9 is better than TL used to be, but I think the rest of the league is lower. And I think that's probably due to a lot of the rosters got blown up. Like, a lot of the rosters that started working well together that were pretty good. Like, for example, Dignitas just blew up their roster for, like, some reason. I don't know. They just decided, screw these guys. We're just going to go with different players. And a lot of rosters did, like, I mean, there's just been a lot of questionable roster decisions. Like, we just talked about Immortals, like, what the hell is that team even? You know, like, that's basically what we were saying. Like, who put this together? I think it's just due to stuff like that. It's just, I mean, there's teams that have it figured out, and then also teams just, like, don't have, I don't know. I don't really want to, like, flame people that much, but I'm also kind of like a spectator now that I'm not playing anymore until summer. I think, like, just the general level is not that impressive. Like, I think the only good teams are C9 and maybe EG. I wonder how EG would do against, like, international opponents. I'm not sure.
And EG is also the type of team where, like, I look at them and I'm wondering how much they're benefiting from online play, because it feels like Kumo got significantly better once they started playing online. Like, it seems like his level really increased. Now, I know he wasn't probably, like, I heard from scrims and stuff like that and from talking to other players that he wasn't, like, he was just having, like, bad stage games over and over again. He was still doing, like, pretty well, and he would have random games where he, like, popped off, but in general, like, his consistency went, like, through the roof once we started playing online. So, like, I always wonder if, like, that factors in to things, because just in general, I mean, I would assume that younger players, newer players would benefit more from having less pressure on you, aka playing online as opposed to, like, playing on stage.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a real thing. Like, the stage jitters or whatever, like, the first time that you play, it's always, your play is always going to be different. But I don't know. I'm not really sure. I haven't been paying that much attention to them. I felt like when we played them, Kumo was normal. I felt like Jizuke was, like, the main person that carried their team when we played against them.
Well, I was surprised in that game because I believe that was one where you played a Fiora top into Kumo's Aatrox, and previously, if I would, like, think about that matchup, it's like, okay, Kumo on Aatrox, and then it's Huni on Fiora. You'd think that Huni would just run that kid into the fucking dirt, but it was a pretty stable lane. Like, Aatrox was just, like, up in CS in the early game, and it never got to the point where the Fiora was actually able to, like, capitalize on his lead. So
yeah, I don't really know. I mean, I know that Fiora should have, but I don't think Fiora really went, like, two items in that matchup, and I don't think we ever got to 2 items. We were 2 behind already through mid jungle. We were trying to play Kiana in that game, and that did not end well for us. So.
By the way, taking it back to, like, the fact that, like, the LCS is worse in terms of, like, you know, let's say, like, average level of the teams, or if you want to look at how many top teams there are, for example, there's basically, like, C9, maybe TSM, and that's it. One thing that actually played a big role in that, to tie back into the GM topic, is I'm sure people have heard this, like, referenced on talk shows, but it was never usually explicitly said. But basically, in the off season, there was this bizarre situation where it was all about who had which jungler, basically. So there was, like, a massive holdup of, like, who was going to get Xmithy and who's going to get Svenskeren, and then, you know, and the problem was, as people might see now and have probably heard already, that literally was changing, like, week to week. So, for example, everyone during most of the offseason was hearing that, like, Xmithy's going to TSM, and then Svenskeren, is he staying in Cloud9? Is he leaving? Obviously, last week we revealed that list where if he'd signed any of these super duper Koreans, apparently he would have stayed.
Actually,
so that move alone could have changed every single team almost. And I think, actually, sadly, the teams that they went to, I mean, we've already done the Xmithy one. That kind of isn't a great team. I actually think it ended up worse for most of the teams, actually. I think that, like, the right player didn't go to the right team in certain cases.
Yeah, no,
the problem with that is, obviously, whichever jungler you got with the domestic role will affect which import you get. And everyone was basically waiting on the domestic players first. That's why, to tie to a very obvious example people will understand, that's why that Vulcan move for support was such a big role. Because, again, there's a limited amount of NA support. So that was the best one in theory, and everyone wanted him. And then once he was moved, the rest of the pieces could fall where they may.
Yeah. One thing I want to give context to in that list is I think I represented it a little bit differently than it actually was. I talked to Jack after the last episode, and it wasn't just that Svenskeren wanted one of those players. It was that Svenskeren wanted like a team of those players. So he was going to be an NA resident, and he wanted to have, you know, double lift plus like a resident like impact, and then fill the rest of the team in with those like level players. So he wanted to get like that.
Oh, not too demanding then. He was only like, you know what, Jack?
I want 5 out of the 10 best players in the world.
You know what, Jack? I'm loyal to you guys. Like, tell you what, I'll stick around if you just get me Chovy, the Shy. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, what? Like, if you get even one of those players, you should be happy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not even close to playable budget-wise. Like, there's no ways. And I think it's not even about like those players went to the right teams, because I don't think any of the rosters were built. I'm pretty sure Xmithy and Svenskeren must have been like probably the first pieces signed on both those teams. So I'm sure they just went to like probably just who gave them the most money.
Yes, honestly. It looks like it for the Smithy one, especially. Like,
I'm sorry, he cashed out for sure.
The rumor is 800K.
That's the other thing about that team that does make it worthy of criticism is it's not like they got him last minute and he just had nowhere to go. They literally. He was like headhunted. They wanted this guy. And I'm sure he got paid a fucking amazing amount as well.
I mean, he deserves it though. I mean, I don't think he was paid that well previously.
Yeah, he was not.
I heard he had like some
Immortals contract.
Yeah, the super old Immortals contract that he was still getting paid on or something.
Yes,
that's what I heard. So
whatever,
man.
What I heard
he's allowed to cash out after winning like what? How many finals? He deserves to be
four. Well, he's won 6 total now.
Yeah, like
4 in a row.
Give the men some Skrilla, you know?
Yeah, no, that's fucking Thorn's favorite word. I'm surprised it came out of your mouth on the show.
You can win a championship playing where Hui is your mid laner. You deserve everything in this fucking world. You deserve like a treasure or something. That's amazing.
Jesus Christ. So I guess on the topic of salary, like, is it weird when contracts get released like that? Like, because you're playing with the player that has considered one of the highest contracts, right? The $2.3 million for like, is it ever like the type of thing where you're like, hey, I'll gank your lane if you give me a little bit of that fucking contract, motherfucker? Like, there must be some type of like, is there any type of like weird vibe between a team where it's like, hey man, like I'm playing on a team with this guy, but he's getting 12 times what I'm getting paid, or like 6 times what I'm getting paid, or whatever the fuck it is?
No, I mean, I don't really think about that. I usually just think like, I don't know. The salary that you get paid is like somewhat based on your most recent performance, and then also based on your like pedigree, like how many times you've gone to Worlds, how much you've won, how much experience you have, how valuable you seem to like that team or whatever. So, I mean, there's no animosity from me to. If anything, I've just joked with Huni a couple times about it. Like, I think the first time I made a joke about it, he was kind of like, I think he was like instantly sort of upset because I think the community loves to bash on him when he has a bad game. I see Twitch chat like 2.3 million KEKW, you know, like I see that all the time.
I don't know where that came from. That's fucked up. I'm surprised anyone ever does that.
Yeah, so I think the first time I joked about it, he was like a little upset, and then I just kept doing it because I wanted to, like, I don't know.
Because you wanted some money or what?
No.
I just like the way Dom sat here this whole episode, like, wow, that's fucked up. What they're saying, Hooney's bad and Smithy's washed up. Yeah, shit. What was it you said? Yeah, keep going.
Hey, I've been saying the same thing about Smithy. Like, I have the same opinion of Akaadian, but what I like as Akaadian, it's just like, generally speaking, when he was winning all those championships, people are just like, oh, he's the best, like, by far.
Him, of course.
Where it's like, he's the best at some things, but he also has big fucking weaknesses, and if you pair him with the wrong players, he's gonna fucking run it. And then they paired him with the wrong players, and now he's running it. So, you know, it is what it is. But I always thought that there might be like, because sure, it's, you say that the salary is based on like all those factors that you listed, but I feel like in a lot of players' minds, it should be off how good you are. Like, rather than like how many times you've been to Worlds, how much you've won, like whatever. It's like, fuck all that. Like, if you're fucking inting, you're fucking inting. Like, it doesn't matter how much you're like worth.
Yeah. I mean, and I think like repercussions come quickly from that. Like, if you run it for an entire split, you might just get benched regardless of regardless of how long your contract is. Like, I think that's something that's still like kind of weird is teams sign 3-year contracts all the time, right? But if you're running it too hard, then they'll just drop you, and then that's just how it works, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. But I mean, as long as you're like a normal, like, playable pro and you're doing your job, you're playing at a fine level, or like the level that was expected of you, or above that, then you're just gonna stay on it, and it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I would just be worried because like contracts that big, I feel like you just have to be like one of the best players in the league. Like, if that's like what it is. So like, I mean, if you're somebody like Impact, etc., who's rumored to have a huge contract, like, I feel like you need to be a star player, and if you're not, there's an issue.
Yeah, so like if you're not for a long period of time, then yeah, probably something will get changed. But like, I feel like people like that have earned the right to, have like, have earned the right. Well, not necessarily an intibit, but like the benefit of the doubt, right? Like, yeah, maybe he had a low level this season or lower than we had previously, but maybe he'll bring it back. So I wouldn't expect people like Impact and Huni to like be replaced.
Yeah, or like Crown to be replaced on CLG. That'd be fucking weird.
Okay, that was extreme though. Like,
yeah, he was sprinting. I'm just making a joke.
Like there's a difference between running. Like most people, if they're like playing bad, they're like jogging. They're out for a walk. Like Crown was like in the world finals, like racing.
He's fucking Usain Bolt, bro. He's Usain Bolt in that shit.
Yeah, I mean, usually when I mean something, I don't know. Maybe he was like mentally like something was not okay there. I'm not really
That's actually what's sad though, Akaadian, is it that we all know he probably was trying really hard. He's Korean, I'm sure he was great. He was fucking grinding and just went badly in his career. It'd be way funnier if he actually did just like play and he just had like a nonchalant rock star attitude, like, fuck it, I've already won worlds anyway, lol, who gives a shit? Like, that would actually be way funnier.
Yeah, no.
In like how he played.
Man,
maybe the mindset is like he's not okay with his team being bad, so he's like trying really hard to make insane plays. Or like he's overreaching, because his team was bad and he didn't want to lose, and then he just looks really stupid doing it over and over again.
I can't buy that based off like what I saw in the games. It's like
maybe.
there was a game versus EG where he literally sees the jungler topside. The jungler just walks topside, shows, and then he's just hugging topside of the lane as mid lane, and he just walks straight into the enemy mid laner, gets cocooned and died. And it's like, what? Like, how can you ever excuse this play? Like, this is just basically, like, this is just knowing how to play your lane. Like, which side is my jungler on? I'm probably going to hug that side of the fucking map, not just, like, run directly into the enemy jungler. So, I don't know, man. It was hard to make excuses for Crown. Also, I just love Flaming Crown because I was on my other podcast Face Check, and one of Loco's hot takes was that Crown was going to be the best mid laner in LCS. So, it's really fun for me to just, like, go in on Crown.
LCS.
Yes, it was like he's gonna fucking carry this motherfucking team. Okay. He's just gonna be the fucking god. So
I feel like Loco has some sort of like he just needs to reveal already what his method is. I'm sure he has, like, like that old one where Monty had that spinner for CLG with all those. He must have something like that for his opinions. Because how does he generate this shit? Like, how does he come up with stuff like that? Sitting around just.
Well, I mean, Crown at least is like
announced to the world, Crown will be the best mid. Like, what are you talking about? Where's this coming from?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it has to be like. I mean, there is like if you say Crown's. Like, I couldn't completely shut on him for that opinion because it is a world champion, Like, if you say any world champion is going to be the best in their role, like, it's like, okay, I mean, what, like, they did win worlds, so, they get the benefit of the doubt to some degree.
I think what he thought was, like, CLG appeared to have really good teamwork when they had Power of Evil on their team. And then I think one thing that's really hard to know also is, like, if a team has good teamwork, which players are driving the teamwork on that team? Nobody from the outside looking in can know. Literally. And then when Power of Evil leaves the team, the teamwork gets way lower, like majorly lower. And then FlyQuest is suddenly like much better. And then you're just like, I wonder who that was. Like, I wonder why they're better.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I think that was probably like his rationale was Crown looked really insane some games on Optic. Like, he had some like breakout, like pop off games, right? So if you put him in this like crazy system that CLG has going, then he's going to be insane. And then Loco just got a bad dice roll,
Yep.
When Power of Evil was actually the guy that was carrying the team.
Yeah,
so.
I think that there's also just like you don't really know until you like you've played with players or you've heard comms from players. But another thing is like you look at CLG and they got Smoothie, right? And Smoothie's supposed to take some of that burden. It's like, okay, Biofrost was known to be relatively quiet, and Smoothie was known to talk a lot and be like one of the shot callers of teams. So people just thought that was going to be like a good fit. Like, hey, he doesn't even really need to shot call, even if he's not as communicative as Power of Evil. Give somebody else on the team that should be like driving most of the plans. And also I just think that like the whole team kind of collapsed. Like, I think Ruin played at a much worse level this year than he did last year. Wiggly, I think, fell off a fucking cliff, which is another thing that I've been.
That's another fucking Inter. Imagine having two Inters like that in one team.
Yeah, and they're playing mid jungle too. You're mid. Yes, that's how you end up like whatever the fuck they were, like 1-8 or some shit like that. Like, yeah, how do you fucking win when your worst two players are mid jungle? Like,
that is
like
the
really
antimatter, Niski and Blabber. They had like reverse synergy that just doesn't work together somehow.
Yeah, no, I mean, the most power int that I've seen the entire split is I don't remember if you I don't know if you saw the FlyQuest game, Akaadian.
The Jarvan thing, right?
Yeah, the Jarvan Flash EQ. Oh my god, that was just so crazy to me. I'm like, how does that ever work ever? I mean, I know the top lane was roaming all that stuff. Still, if you're looking at the game from a jungle perspective, you're like, okay, man, this is just fucking merciless at this point.
I mean, I was thinking about it, and I was thinking like, I wonder how you arrive at that decision. And then I was thinking like, the only thing that would make me do that was if I was trying to like reverse what's happening. You know, if something is happening that I really don't want to happen, and I try to like save it. He's just trying to save the play. And then he just kills himself and makes the game way worse.
Yeah, I figured it had to be like some type of top communication because Ruin was roaming down river. Like Ruin was about where like Pixel Brush was when he went for it. So I thought it might have been the type of thing. And I think Ruin was playing Camille that game too.
That's really another thing that like I think a lot of people don't see is they see one player run it like furiously, right? They just go in way too early, just insta die, and then everyone's like, haha, this guy's so bad. But like a lot of the time, what you don't hear is you're playing the game and maybe your teammate is screaming at you, go, 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 and like. When you're in a pressure situation, when you're in a game like that on stage and your teammate tells you to go, like a lot of the time you're just going to go. Like it's just how it works. If you're, especially when you're like close to enemy characters, like when you're in like engage range of enemy champs, they could get engaged on you at any point and you could engage on them and you have to like dodge your skills or something to get away. If you're in a situation like that where you're already under pressure because you're in front of them or close to them and someone tells you to do something, a lot of the time you'll just do it. And maybe, I mean, it was a bad play, and if he was like a Faker level player, he would have done it, right? Mm-hmm. If like Faker would never go in there, or like a super high level player would just be like, "What the fuck? That's troll. I'm gonna wait like 5 seconds or something." But that could happen. I guess it's not really. I can't really make an excuse.
I'll give you an analogy.
He's just bad. Is that what we arrived on? Like, what the fuck?
One of the things I feel like in solo queue, every random player who's never played League of Legends, whenever I see people comment and give all their shit like bad beat stories of when they're in solo queue and some idiot messed up the game or whatever, whenever they complain about their teammates, I feel like the number one thing people are actually complaining about is they always in their mind think they know what they wanted to do in the game, and then because their teammate didn't know exactly what they thought and tried something different, half the time what tilts them is like, oh, we should have gone for that, like we could have done something there. It's like, yeah, but you're in solo queue, you don't even have comms with that guy, like how the fuck's he supposed to know?
Yeah.
So the point is, in the same sense as people in solo queue who don't even have a way to communicate can think he should know what we're going to do now. Like in an actual pro game, similarly, like that's what's going to fuck it up. Is what, for all you know, if we don't have the comms, maybe they set that whole thing up and told them to come there.
Yeah, and that's
then
one thing.
Like the biggest idiot ever.
Yeah,
obviously.
exactly, and that's one thing that you have to consider is there's no way that Riot could possibly implement a system where you are able to vocally communicate with your teammates in a game. So
that might increase toxicity, Dom. Whereas just leaving us all to just read each other's fucking minds. Yeah. It couldn't be any problems come from that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there's no real solution.
That's ever been married. Trying to read people's minds is way worse.
100% agree.
I feel like my opposition to that would just be more based on like my peace of mind than anything else, like the voice thing, because I feel like so many people have terrible microphones and like they have like kids screaming in the background, their moms are screaming, there's hella noise in their house. If you have like a voice situation like that,
no, then there would be a button that you could press or something that could turn off their microphone for yourself.
In my experience, like so many people just don't care too. Like when people are making noise in their house, they have no regard for like the people that they're playing with hearing that stuff, which I think is like the main issue I'd have with it, if anything.
Yeah. No, I would just mute him fast. Like, I think it should be an option at least, right? Like, I think it's so crazy. You look at any other game, CSGO, Overwatch, Dota, any other team game has voice communication. Why do we have to be this, like, what, is there going to be no... If they put voice communication in Valorant, I'm going to fucking shoot myself in the head. My God, that's going to be so cringe. Like, if they're like, no, Valorant's a completely different game. The level of communication you need for this game is just way higher. Like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, I just can't handle it.
I also think it would... I don't know if it would raise toxicity. Maybe it would.
I think it would lower it.
Yeah, dude. I think it would, like, because when you're playing with people in solo queue, like, honestly, those people are just champions and names in a game. But when you hear their voices, maybe it'll lower toxicity. Maybe it'll make the game.
I actually think it would, Akaadian. The reason why I can tell you is because having played loads of League of Legends and CSGO is in the public mode with no teammates, right? It's weird because it's counterintuitive. You'd think being able to talk to the guy would make it more toxic. Like you'd be like road rage, like, you fucking idiot, what are you doing? But actually, as weird as it sounds, it's way easier to type flame like that than it is to actually say it when the guy can respond. Because I noticed, like, and all the other thing is as well, like people might flame a bit, but I feel like it's way more cathartic to say it vocally than the guy just whatever. Well, whereas if you just type it never gets resolved. It's just some shit on the screen.
If you hear some like shy guy over the mic, you just hear like, yeah, my bad. Like, you're not gonna
you also feel bad for him, exactly.
You're gonna be like, it's all right, bro. Like, it's all right.
Java needs to kill himself. Like, you know, you have no mercy whatsoever. It's so dehumanizing, League of Legends.
I mean, I'm sure there's some people that might still flame, but I think
I'll still flame 100%. But I have mental issues, so it's completely different for me. Like, I'll still flame him. But like most players will flame him.
Everyone will just be passive aggressive if this voice comes.
Yeah,
and then
sure.
That shit's also annoying.
Perfect. And then you just literally are in Europe. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. How did we even get to this topic? Jesus Christ.
Listen, I tell you what we need to do, Dom. This is what we need to do. We need to pivot into talking about Dig more. And what we're going to do is this. Are you ready? This is going to be unique. You're never going to get a team up like this again. Okay. What we're going to do, Dom, is we're going to ask him a load of questions about Froggen. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. If you've watched any talk show in the history of League of Legends, you know that to be a good teammate usually means, even if the person you play with has flaws, you find a way to explain that it's not as bad as it seems.
Am I going to interpret what he's saying or what?
No. So what we're going to have to do is we're actually going to have to both work together to grill him. So I'm going to have to ask him loads of questions, even though I personally don't want it to be true. So we'll have to see what he says on this. We're going to have to, because he's never going to give it up easy, is he? He's going to be like, he has his own style of play, and I respect what he's done in his career. It's like, so we're going to have to cut through all that, okay, Dom? So we'll start with an easy one. How about this? Akaadian, obviously you used to play with Froggen way back in the day in Echo Fox, and now you play with him in Dig. Is he a different player than he was in Echo Fox?
No.
Is it similar?
Yeah. It's similar.
Basically, that's a one word. Oh man, this is gonna be hard. This is gonna be hard, man. He's gonna be.
What do you want me to say? Like, yeah, he's pretty similar.
Okay.
I mean, I guess one thing is like, how much is like is it hard to get him to roam? Like, is it hard to get him to help you out when you need him to move from mid?
It depends on what champ he's playing.
Okay. Some
champs he's just waiting for his timer, and then he's going to be AFK from the game until he gets his timer, and then he'll help you. And then you just have to. That's just how you play. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it really, like, when he's playing roaming champions, specifically roaming champions, he'll roam a lot. Like, I don't know if you watch. We played CLG like 3 weeks ago. He was playing Rumble, and he was roaming a lot. Like, he just does that when he's
also.
roaming champions.
But Wiggly was trolling so fucking hard that game that it was really hard to credit him. Like,
well, I mean, no. I mean, when I killed Wiggly at Krugs. He shouldn't have died. What would have happened there is Wiggly would have backed off and we would have built their top laner with Rumble. Rumble was coming. Mm-hmm. So we were going to kill top, and instead I just killed Wiggly because he just, I don't know, trolled. He was walked up to me. Yeah. But and then later we dove top. I mean, he was roaming a lot in that game.
You left out an int there. Do you remember the Wiggly death at Wraiths where Rumble just walked straight up to him and Wiggly thought that he had flash and just let the Rumble kill him? Level 4?
No, I mean, I remember that. It was funny. Froggen was just like, this guy's inting, and then...
Okay, all right. Good. So, yeah, no, I thought his Rumble was pretty good. But there's always, like, so many games to counter that, right? Like, it's like, every time I want to, like, give Froggen props, it's like, Rumble game. He roamed a little, +1. And then I see the Kiana game, and I'm like, -2. Like, it's just so hard for me to like,
feel confident. I'll say that the Kiana game was... I'll take a little bit of blame for that, because I think I should have been mid at a time where he was ready to fight, and then we could have actually contested the game a little bit, and I wasn't there when I should have been, and it resulted in a super fucked mid lane state, and then their team played well. Like, they had Tom Kench roam to mid they 3-man, and then we ended up dying with our 3-man, but their 3-man's just stronger, at least in Rise Tom early game. So maybe that game could have gone a lot differently if I'd played better in that scenario. Like, if I'd just pathed better, more aggressively. Maybe if I just ganked mid at level 3 that game instead of I did 2 more camps. I did Krugs and Crab, and then came mid. Maybe if I ganked mid instantly, it would have been a different game. I'm not really sure.
I always wonder when I see situations like that, because it feels like, like there could be reasoning why that happened, but for some reason, so from my perspective, it's like, are there things that like he struggles with in terms of maybe like communication or something, that whenever he plays these like roaming champions, like maybe he communicates in a different way, or he plays champions that are weaker in lane, like maybe he's just not able to communicate what he needs to allow himself to like be unlocked from the game. Because when you look at like other players, like Niski, for example, and he's playing Kiana, it looks like a completely different game where Niski is like, hey, Blabber, like, come kill this motherfucker. Like, I'm gonna flash on him, like that type of shit. So I always do you think that maybe his communication like plays into like why he's just better on like isolated champions?
No, I just think it's mindset mostly. I think his mindset is just different than what you need for champs like that.
Is that actually a problem in 2020 in League of Legends? Like, obviously many, many years ago, like just farming in mid lane was actually the most effective way to play the game, but that is a long, long time ago. Is it a problem in the modern day?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like I talked about earlier. I said there's like a mindset gap between mids and LCS. I think, and I think all the players that are, I think if you're picking Orianna and you're farming for late game, you're doing it wrong most of the time. That's you're
Oh
gonna
shit, Dig must be doing it wrong a lot of the time then. Jesus Christ. I see a lot of Orianna coming out from Dignitas. Like,
I mean, okay, maybe that was, I mean, that was a bad example, but I mean, I'm just saying, I think there's an optimal way to play, and I think that is not it.
yeah.
But I mean, it's playable. You can win like that. You can win late game like that, but it's not the best, I think. So, yeah.
I guess the easiest. So I guess if you were to compare him to like Power of Evil, right?
Why are we? We're like singling out Froggen because I just played with him. Like
well,
this,
yeah, I
this
guess
year?
pretty much.
Okay.
Like, and this is also, you have to understand, this is Thorin that we're talking about here. This is Thorin's.
What gets known for.
Don't you love Froggen, Thor?
Yeah, I do, but I want to actually know what your perspective
Oh,
is
I
on
see.
it. Like, what was it like to play with them, etc. Blah blah blah. All
see.
the rest of it.
Well, I
Put it
mean,
this way, I'll put one to you. So what people would say is this, right? Basically, yeah, obviously, if you're playing like Vel'Koz and Karthus, you're not going to fucking roam much on those champions. Like, what would even the point be? But people would say this, Akaadian. They'd say, well, why are you playing those champions in the first place? Why don't you just play all the meta champions that do roam? What would you say to that?
Do that. Play the meta champion.
Yeah, so why doesn't he?
I don't know. He's Froggen.
okay.
He's. I mean, maybe he's also just like. He's like specifically good at those characters, or he just can't play the meta characters. I don't
Put
know.
it this way, I'll help you out here, Akaadian. I know sort of really the problem with this discussion, right? Which is I've talked to loads of Froggen's former teammates, including in squads like Echo Fox and all this stuff. And basically, this is the issue, Dom, is he almost wasn't joking when he just goes, "It's Froggen." That's like almost like no one brings these things up. No one has it. They don't have an intervention where they go, "Froggen, when you don't roam and play meta champions, it hurts me in my jungle." Like no one does that. Like they just go, "Right, he's not the worst player in the team. He's usually one of the better players in the team. He does his job. Actually, as much as it's a downside, an upside of Froggen is you know exactly how he's going to play. That at least as a jungler, you know.
And he'll always have solid laning.
I actually like. Okay, so for me, playing with Demonte got his name like his big like pop off last year was he's playing shit like Kiana, right? He's playing Kiana, Rumble. He played completely when he played on Clutch. He played basically completely for his side lanes. He moved around a lot, played for team fights. Tanner's a very selfless player. And when I played with Tanner, it was really like League of Legends was so easy, honestly. I mean, it was helpful too that I was on Academy. I was playing versus weaker opponents in jungle. A lot of my laners were better than the enemy laners a lot of the time, but it was so easy for me to just play the game. Tanner would just always pick. He would just pick like he would just blind Zoe or he'd blind Rumble or he'd always blind. He'd pick for our duo. Like our duo would be strong. Like our mid jungle would be strong. And then we would just roam around the map, do stuff. He would play for me in early game, like I said. And then going from that to Froggen was struggle at first, and I was getting upset about it. But I learned from previous years. I learned like a pretty big lesson last year with just like not talking to one of my teammates about like feelings I had basically. So I just had a call with Henrik, and we just talked for like 2 or 3 hours about my feelings, his feelings, how we're playing with each other, try to like connect it better or something. And I think after that point, we started making like progress in terms of synergy with each other. And I think that's like probably a big reason why the team ended up winning the games we did. Honestly, it's because we like connected our brains a little bit more. You know.
Do you think Johnson's a beast? You think he's just a monster or what?
Yeah, Johnson's raw skill is really high. What he lacks is communication. I think he's just learning communication. It's just he's a rookie. Like honestly, he's just learning. I think he's learning how to communicate in a team to enable him to play his game the way he wants to. I think that's like the biggest thing that he has to work on. And then once he gets good at that, he's going to be a really good player. I don't see. I think he's like pretty high level, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like I've been hyping him like the entire season. I think he's like really good. I feel like that's almost the best role to have that issue at. Because like you're playing 80 carry. Yeah.
I mean, you can like cover for it, but it needs to be coming. That sort of communication needs to be coming. Because usually when I talk to like, I'll talk to top lane and then I'll talk to mid lane and I'll talk to bot lane, right? There has to be some comms from bot lane, and usually those comms about what you want to do come from the 80 carry. That's where it should come from. Because the 80 carry
knows how strong he is. Yeah,
knows how strong he is, knows what items he needs to get to, stuff like that, knows when he needs help, when he wants to fuck the enemy 80 carry, something like that. And yeah, Johnson's just working on that. He's got to get better at it. And then I think already he's like pretty good, but I think if he gets really good, like I'm sure that people like Double It, for example, I'm sure he's really good at that, like calling his teammates to come to him, what timer to come, when he needs them, telling them before the game exactly what. I'm sure he knows like exactly what timers he's powerful on, whether or not he needs to win lane early game, stuff like that. And then coordinating with your team that's like a whole another skill. I think that's like the main thing that people. There's always jitters and nerves as well with rookies, but I think that's the main thing that people talk about with like, oh yeah, he's just new or he's a rookie or something. Mm-hmm. It's like you have to learn how to play with your teammates. You're like, because people are like people too, you know. You're always like, everyone always sees the champions and the players and the plays that you make in the game, but a lot of it is you're playing with 4 other people as well, and you got to manage relationships and communicate and whatnot. So
I'll add on to that because I actually think this is a point that, by the way, this is just a point in relationships in general in life. Like, one of the ultimate hacks isn't that you're going to just find someone who's perfectly matched to you. Like, the odds of that are incredibly low, if not impossible. Mm-hmm. It's what you do is you find someone where you can trust them enough that you basically tell them what your script is. Like, I'm a bit fucked up in this way. I'd like to do things this way. This is what I'll do in this situation. And the idea is, once you both communicate like that, you're on the same page then. Like, you understand at least how they see themselves, what they want to do. Because this is a problem I've noticed with a lot of the players who are like really skilled, but they are considered bad teammates. It's like, I mean, one of my other boys, Forgiven, had this problem his whole career. What he would do is he was almost like the ridiculous caricature of like the girlfriend who like won't tell you what you're doing wrong. He needs you to just know what you're doing wrong and then correct it without him even discussing it. And if he even has to discuss it with you, that's going to tilt him even more. So then he's going to get even harsher. And it's like, in this scenario, it's like, dude, they can't read your mind. Like, why don't you just tell them at the beginning what your problem is or what you need to, like, if they don't realize, if they'd sort of gone halfway themselves, the problem disappears at that point in time. That's where you get a positive relationship, I think.
Yeah.
No, I think the one thing that's promising about Johnson, though, is like he's a true rookie. Where most rookies that you see, they're rookies, but they played like a year of academy. They played, they played some amateur before they got into academy. Where Johnson had none of this. Like, he wasn't, as far as I know. I mean, he was on like TSM's third team or whatever, and he played a couple like games in academy. I think he played like 4 games in academy. He was 0-4 going into LCS. But this is his actual like first split that he's had a team and like played with, like the same players for most of it. Obviously there was a jungle change, but I feel like that is normally a really good sign where it's like, okay, you can grow. It's not like you've been working on this for a while and you have these innate flaws. It's like, okay, you're already fucking good, and this is the first time that we've got to see you play in a team environment. You'll probably get better the next split. So
yeah, I don't actually know how long he's been playing League for, but I know I randomly started seeing his name last year, and then suddenly this guy's just like all over all my games, like 4 accounts, carrying really hard on. He's a good fill too. Like, he's just good at League of Legends. To be honest,
he's good. He always tells me how OP jungle is every time. That's the only problem with him, honestly, is that he's just delusional about how good jungle is. Like,
he's an idiot carry. They all think jungle's like the most OP role.
Okay, I feel like if we could make everyone understand what we talked about earlier, where like jungle difference is lane difference at first, and then the jungle difference will come to your lane. Like, if everyone understands that really well, like
junglers wouldn't be toxic.
Yeah, if everyone just understood, just fucking play your lane to get your jungle fed in the first 5 minutes, and then your jungle will take over the game. Then, I mean, jungle is OP, but it's just like the team that does that better will win.
Yes. Jungle is OP, but you have to like help me get OP because they also have a jungler that is OP. That's the problem. Like,
there's 2 OP guys.
Yeah, there's 2 OP guys.
Only one will be OP, or none will be OP.
Yeah. That's definitely a factor. I guess one thing that we haven't touched on, one player that we haven't talked about at all on your team is Afro. So his the perception that everyone's always had of him is that he's like a godlike shot caller, right? Like, that was what he was known for on CLG, etc. Why do you think it is that on Dignitas you guys were having such like you had the famous like Baron throws, right? It became Dignitas Baron again, like with somebody who's supposed to be a good shot caller, and like all your players are supposed to be good, right? Like Froggen is known to be like pretty good. Huni's supposed to be like at times he's the best top laner in the world, or one of the best top laners in the world. Johnson's star AD carry. Like, what made it so you guys were not able to succeed around like shot calling around objectives and things like that?
Well, I mean, I think that's kind of like, at least with me on the team, it was kind of like a sort of a fake thing. I mean, I know it did happen in week 7, but I would attribute that more to the fact. I would attribute that more to the fact that we played with each other for 2 days before that. Like, I think I played scrims. I'm losing my voice. I think I played scrims on Wednesday. I played Wednesday, Thursday, Friday scrims, and then played that game on Saturday. So I'd played like I don't know, 18 games with the team or something. Not even 18. It's like 5, so 15.
15.
Maybe even less, because a lot of the time you play only 4 games every day. And my communication style is a lot different than John's. I talk a lot more than he does, I think, and I talk a lot more. Like, I'm more of a commanding voice in a team than like supplementary. So I'm not really sure. I think we got a lot better at it over time, but I think with Afro, he's he's more of like a, like, he doesn't always make the plans. He'll make the plans if nobody else is making plans, but he's not usually the first one that makes them. He just, like, once the plans are made, once the map plan is made for what we're trying to get, what vision we're going for, stuff like that, then he'll start saying the smaller things like, okay, wait for this person to show. Once he shows, we're gonna go here and do that, and then stuff like that. I think in the larger situations, he's not as, like, dominant in terms of comms. So, but I mean, I think after a period of time, like, I think in the later games that we showed, we showed our synergy better. We just got better at playing with each other, and I don't think our objectives, like our objective control, at least from our team side, was, like, pretty good for the most part.
So would you describe yourself then, if you talk a lot, are you very influential on what the team does in the game? Because obviously that's one thing, actually, I think people did give you props for in that one good split with TSM, is like the style of the team looked like it was way better when you were playing.
Yeah, I definitely would say at this point in my career that I have a big say in how we play in general in situations. I am pretty vocal about, I mean, I've always had the thing, ever since I started playing, I looked at what junglers are doing, and I was thinking, like ever since Fox, and when I was on, like, challenger teams and stuff, I just thought, it seems like the jungler's job should just be the early game, so I'm gonna start trying to get as good as I can at communicating early game to make sure it's perfect every time. And this comes with just adding little things like, let's say the situation you were in, Dom, right, where Elise showed top when you have Crown on your team, right? If I was on Crown's team, I would be saying Elise is top, side. and then I would see my mid laner hugging top and tell my mid laner to move to bot side, like just stuff like that. Like, I think I'm pretty vocal. Yeah, I think I'm pretty vocal in game. I would say I was the main person talking, or like a large person talking on my current team. Maybe less than Academy. I think in Academy I was way more, but on the LCS team there's, like, other bigger voices too. So, but I'm still, like, a big part of it. Yeah.
Makes sense. Well, I guess we're normally, like, ending the show here, and we always like to open up to our guests. Like, is there anything that you want to talk about on the show that you didn't get a chance to? Is there any topics that we, like, glossed over? Is there anything that you like for us to discuss? Pretty much, is there anything that we've missed so far? Are you, like, happy with what we ended up talking about? You can take a second to think and, like, figure and organize your thoughts, etc.
Yeah, I think I'm fine. Except, I would like to say that there's this, like, random rumor that's, like, pretty accepted at this point. I think a lot of people, like, accept it.
Come on.
That there was like a thing with Sven and a girl and me, and that's just absolutely not true. There was nothing ever like
exactly.
That never happened.
No, I can corroborate that. That's not true at all. It wasn't Sven, an Akaadian and a girl.
Yeah, it was not that.
Yeah.
There we go. We said it right. That's the fact. We've got all the facts on the table. No problem. Don't need any part for this episode. He already got it last year, so we're all cool.
Yeah, there's no might have been a girl, and in another context, but definitely not in that same context.
There was a situation.
It's past history.
It was not a problem at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
we talked about it instantly, and then it was fine.
So there was a girl. Okay, all right. Well, okay.
There's always a girl.
There was never a problem, bro. There was never a problem at all. We were just like, yeah.
Yeah, it was a pass to the gang type situation. All right. Well,
and also, I don't know. I don't want to think that, like, whatever. Never mind. It's fine.
Yeah.
Next.
No, I mean, you can say whatever you want.
No, I will say one thing, Akaadian. I have to actually say one thing. You've just made me remember that whole situation last year. There's one thing I have to say to you about this. I want to get your take on this. One move where you absolutely, in my opinion, completely misplayed your hand last year was when they did bench you, and you basically came out and agreed with them and was sort of like, it was like the right move or whatever. Like, that was, come on, man. Like,
dude, I thought we were going to talk about that already, actually, in the show. Like, I thought for sure you're going to bring that up.
What do you think on that, though? Because that's the thing, right? It's like I say, based on the things I knew behind the scenes, I think you got a pretty rough deal. Like, yeah, you definitely had some bad games in summer at times when you were like under pressure on the trial scenario. I thought it was kind of BS they put Greg in, but you sort of like gave them the alley-oop to wreck you at the end there. Like you almost justified it, you know.
I really did not realize what was happening and how it was making me look at the time. I thought it was like it was, I don't know. I was like really just depressed. Like I wanted to like walk away from League for a little bit. I wanted some time away. At the end of the split, I lost with Academy in like quarterfinals or semifinals or something.
Greg was your top laner,
and then Greg was my top laner. And then I was on vacation with my family in Arizona, in Colorado, and there was just all this drama. I was getting flooded suddenly with like notifications and messages, and so many people were talking to me about it, and I really just wanted to like. I should have probably just turned my phone off, to be honest, but I was really stressed out. Like we were driving like 3 hours to this like cabin thing to go hang out in, and I was driving with my sister, like just stressing out about this whole situation because I felt like so many people were mad at me, and I felt like at first I thought that like you and Loco were like shitting on me or something. I didn't realize that you guys were like trying to like figure out what was going on. I really like I was just embarrassed about the whole situation. Like I was embarrassed about the performance that I'd put up with TSM. I was embarrassed of my own performance, just the whole situation. I just wanted people to like forget about it. Like I wanted people to like stop talking about it. And then I just basically said that because I didn't want people to flame my teammates either, or like the people that have been like TSM was my family for a year, you know, like they were like people I worked with. I spent a ton of time with them. I didn't want anyone to be getting flamed. So I basically just said that thinking like, oh, it's going to go away now. And then I didn't realize like it just made me look terrible at the end of it. And then I almost like I nearly didn't get a chance to play again this year, to be honest, from that. Like it was really close to me not having a team. Like Dignitas was like the only academy team that was going to pick me up, I'm pretty sure. And then I just got to play again and got to show that like I'm actually good at League. Like I'm actually good at the game.
Like that was basically an example, right, of where that whole thing people say of like Reddit narratives become real, at least in people's minds, right? And it can absolutely dictate your career, like if anyone will pick you up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it dictated my value like an insane amount. Like everyone just thought, I'm sure everyone in the community thought there's like something wrong with this guy, you know, because of like everything that happened. Like there was like another academy team that I was talking to that he just said like, yeah, the way it seems like after that stuff with TSM happened, like all the drama, all the teams are just like, okay, that's it for this guy. And then that was like most of the team's mentality, I think.
That this was something like we talked about this in person at TwitchCon, because I remember like after that I was like shit, like because I mean we've been friends for years, and I was like, hey man, like I wasn't trying to like say that you're like that I wasn't trying to like make you look bad. I was trying to say that you're actually a good player, and that there was like problems with the fucking team that like were personal, and that was the issue, not your skill. Because I felt like the way it was being like shown from TSM was they made it seem like it was your skill was the main issue, and not like some type of like interpersonal relationship or some like dynamic.
They hung him out to dry definitely a little bit, didn't they?
Yes.
Come on.
So that was pretty much like the conversation that we had there, and I was trying to like, you know, just explain that from my perspective, I'm not trying to fucking ruin your career. If anything, I'm like trying to like help it. Yeah. So
it's okay. You learn.
Yeah. So,
I learned.
Yeah.
I learned from a lot of, honestly, I learned from experiences last year, and if I run into the same, like I like the thing I told you about how Henrik and I talk to each other, like that's even something I learned from last year. Like I didn't do that in the past, and it just like fucked with me basically. So yeah, I just learned, and then I think it helped. So hopefully I just keep learning forehead.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's good. I mean, it took like half a split for you to get like a starting spot back, but you got your starting spot back in LCS, and obviously it's been looking good for you since. Like you had a good performance at the end with Dignitas. So hopefully going into next split, it keeps on going in that direction.
I also beat TSM. Made him look stupid.
Yeah, dude, that shit.
Don't forget about that.
It felt good.
That one felt so good, dude. You know, it was funny because I'm just playing the game. I didn't do anything special at all, and then I just checked tab, and I'm 3 levels on the enemy jungler, and I'm just sitting there like, what is happening here? Like, what did we do? Something like insane, or it just didn't happen? I guess I don't know. All I did was kill some camps when I wanted to, and then I was ahead for some reason.
Wasn't Dardoch on Sejuani that game?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a good look for TSM. That's all I'll say. The Dardoch Sejuani hasn't been it for me. But yeah,
dude, it's TSM Sejuani, man. Come on, I was a Sejuani main too.
Yes, but I mean,
listen, Dom, just be thankful they didn't have Greg on their bench. They probably brought him in already.
True, actually, yeah, they would have split time for sure at this point. But yeah, I guess that wraps it up. I mean, I thought it was a pretty good episode. We covered a lot of topics all the way from Echo Fox days to TSM to Dignitas
I
now.
gave you guys all the juice for Reddit.
Yeah, all the fucking juice, man. This is gonna be a banger. People are gonna love discuss. People love talking about TSM, talking about how good they are, shitting on TSM, everything. So this is definitely gonna be the juice, and we appreciate you for that. So thank you for coming on. And you have anything to shout out before we leave? Are you gonna be streaming during the off season or anything like that?
I actually can't stream because our internet is too bad at my apartment.
Nice.
No, I mean, I'm just gonna be chilling. Probably like taking a break from League, play some WoW.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Sitting in my room just like everyone else.
Yeah,
watching playoffs.
That's the vibe right now for sure. So, thank you for coming on, and I guess we'll catch you guys on the next episode of the Crackdown next week. Peace out.